My cousin Emma was basically the princess of our family. She had perfect grades, a high-paying job at 24, and somehow managed to look put together even when she claimed she had just rolled out of bed. Every family gathering somehow turned into a comparison between us. If I got an A, my aunt would ask why I didn't get an A+. If I got a new job, she'd remind me that Emma was already making twice as much money. I got used to it after a while, but it still hurt. Then, about a year ago, Emma started dating this guy named Jake. According to her, he was the most amazing man on earth. She posted pictures of him constantly and called him her soulmate. A month ago, I started a new job at a marketing company. On my very first day, I walked into my manager's office and nearly dropped my coffee because standing there was Jake. At first, I thought maybe I was just tired and had mistaken him for someone else. But then he smiled and introduced himself. "Hi, I'm Jake. I'll be your manager." It was definitely him. I didn't say anything about knowing Emma because I didn't want things to get awkward. Then I noticed a picture frame sitting on his desk. It showed Jake standing next to a woman with 2 little kids. I assumed it was his sister and her children until he picked up the frame and smiled at it. Then he casually said, "My family keeps me motivated." I froze. I asked him if the children were his nieces and nephews, and he laughed. "Nope, that's my wife and my kids. We've been married for 8 years. I genuinely thought I had heard him wrong. My entire body went cold. I spent the rest of the day in complete shock. Emma had been dating this man for over a year and had been talking about marrying him for months. Maybe they were separated, I thought. Maybe they were in the middle of a divorce. I planned to ask him privately the next day, but that evening, my aunt called me sounding happier than I'd ever heard her. Before I could even say hello, she screamed, "Jake proposed." I nearly dropped my phone. She then invited me to an engagement party they were throwing that weekend. I barely slept for the next 2 nights. I kept thinking about the picture on his desk and the way he proudly called that woman his wife. The entire situation made me sick, but I also didn't know if it was my place to ruin my cousin's happiness. The engagement party finally arrived. The house was covered in flowers and fairy lights, and everyone looked so happy. Emma ran up to me and threw her arms around me before showing me her ring. She looked happier than I had ever seen her. Then Jake walked into the room. He acted completely normal, smiling at everyone like he wasn't hiding an entire family. Later, everyone gathered around for speeches. Jake stood in the center of the room and started talking about fate and true love. Then he said he had finally found his forever person. That was it. I couldn't sit there anymore. I stood up, looked directly at him, and asked, "Does your wife know you're engaged tonight?" The entire room went silent. Jake's face turned completely white. Emma laughed because she thought I was joking, but I wasn't. I pulled out my phone and showed everyone the picture I had secretly taken of the family photo on his desk. I asked him to explain. He couldn't. He just stood there staring at me. Then Emma started crying, my aunt started screaming, and one of my uncles nearly punched him. After several minutes of chaos, Jake finally admitted the truth. He had a wife and 2 children. He had lied to Emma from the very beginning and told her he was divorced when he wasn't. The engagement ended right there. He got thrown out of the house, and Emma didn't speak to anyone for days. Now half my family says I ruined the happiest night of her life, while the other half says I saved her from marrying a liar. Honestly, I still don't know if I did the right thing. So Ada.